Fewer than 50% of Democrats want Biden to run in 2024, poll. However, the majority of party supporters will back the 80-year-old anyway if he is nominated for the presidential race. Fewer than 50% of U.S. Democrats believe President Joe Biden should run for a second term in the Oval Office, a new poll has indicated. However, the majority of respondents said they would still back the incumbent in 2024, if he is selected as the party's candidate. On Friday, the Associated Press published the results of a survey it carried out among 1,230 adults between April 13 and April 17. Only 47% of Democratic voters said they wanted Biden to run for president again, with that number notably lower among younger demographics. Only 25% of Democratic respondents under the age of 45 would definitely support him, AP reported. However, some 81% of Democrats said they would at least probably vote for Biden if he won the nomination. According to the survey, while 78% of Democrats approve of the president's performance, this figure is only 42% among the general population. A total of 56% of Americans said they would be unlikely to support Biden in a general election, the survey revealed, while only 26% want to see the current president run for a second term. Biden's advanced age, he would be 82 on Election Day in 2024, and 86 at the end of a hypothetical second term, is among the main concerns voiced by Democrats in the poll. One respondent admitted that, while she likes Biden and what he has achieved during his time in office, he's just so old. Another expressed concern that the president may be lacking the up-to-date knowledge of what needs to be done. Biden is already the oldest president in U.S. history. Speaking to the press last Friday while on a visit to Ireland, Biden said, "I told you my plan is to run again," adding that he had already made that calculus. The Democrat promised to announce it relatively soon. In its report on Friday, AP, citing anonymous sources, claimed the president may do that on Tuesday, April 25, 4 years to the day since he entered the 2020 race. White House physician Kevin O'Connor declared Biden fit for duty following a series of medical tests back in February. If he does officially announce his candidacy, it is quite likely that Biden will face off with Republican Donald Trump again in 2024. The former president joined the race for the Republican nomination last November. South African official says U.S. spying violated sovereignty. A senior South African official criticized U.S. spying in a recent interview with China Media Group, CMG, saying it infringed on the sovereignty and territory of African countries. A pile of U.S. intelligence documents began circulating on social media in early April, which not only showed how deeply the U.S. is involved in the Ukraine crisis, but revealed that the U.S. has been spying on many countries and international organizations, including its allies and the United Nations. The leaked documents have raised grave concerns in many countries, including South Africa, which borders Namibia, and discovered that a U.S. drone used to gather data sailed in Namibian waters, very close to the territorial waters of South Africa. Despite the U.S. claiming it was a private drone contracted for marine research purposes, Namibian media outlets have suggested it was an American spy drone. Cedric Frolick, the National Assembly House chairperson of South Africa, told CMG that the actions of the U.S. violated the sovereignty and territorial integrity of African countries and it cannot be accepted. He added that African countries wish to be treated as equal cooperating partners just as other countries, and the sovereignty and territory of African countries must be respected. In the time of globalization, countries have cooperation projects and common interests, so all sides must abide by existing international treaties, he noted. We must avoid double standards of certain countries when it comes to issues of sovereignty and territory, Frolick said. Denmark withdraws military from Syria, Iraq to combat threats near countries' borders. Denmark has decided to withdraw all its military specialists, who participated in countering Daesh in Iraq and Syria, to combat threats in close proximity to the country's borders, the Danish Defense Ministry said on Saturday. Now we are withdrawing the unit to Denmark, partly because the number of the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq has been so reduced that there is no equal need for our contribution, and partly because we need to restore combat power for countering the threats that we see in our immediate vicinity. The ministry said in a statement. The Danish military specialists have been on the territory of these countries since 2016, the statement noted, adding that the servicemen worked in the field of air defense. Leaked U.S. documents suspect shared info earlier than previously known. The U.S. Air National Guardsmen accused of leaking classified documents to a small group of gamers had been posting sensitive information months earlier than previously known and to a much larger chat group, the New York Times, NYT, reported on Friday. In February 2022, soon after the Russia-Ukraine conflict began, a user profile matching that of Jack Teixeira began posting secret intelligence on the conflict on a previously undisclosed chat group on social platform Discord, NYT reported, adding the group had about 600 members. This chat room was publicly listed on a YouTube channel and was easily accessible, NYT added. The Pentagon declined to comment on the new information. The 21-year-old U.S. Air National Guardsman facing criminal charges for leaking top-secret military intelligence records online was arrested last week. The case is believed to be the most serious U.S. security breach since more than 700,000 documents, videos, and diplomatic cables appeared on the WikiLeaks website in 2010. The Pentagon has called the leak a deliberate, criminal act. The leaks did not come to light until they were reported by the New York Times in early April, even though the documents were posted earlier. Teixeira was charged with one count of violating the Espionage Act related to the unlawful copying and transmitting of sensitive defense material, and a second charge related to unlawful removal of defense material to an unauthorized location. He will likely face more charges, legal experts have said. China questions sovereignty of ex-Soviet states. Beijing's ambassador to France has claimed that the legal status of Ukraine and other former USSR republics isn't concrete. China's ambassador to France has called into question the sovereignty of Ukraine and other former Soviet republics, suggesting that their hazy status under international law makes it difficult to resolve conflicts over disputed territories such as Crimea. Even these countries of the former Soviet Union don't have effective status in international law because there is no international agreement to make their status as a sovereign country concrete, Ambassador Liu She said on Saturday in an interview with French broadcaster LCI. Asked by Swiss journalist Darius Roch-Eben whether Crimea is Ukrainian territory, Liu said, "It depends on how you perceive the problem. It's not that simple." Roch-Eben tried to correct his guest, saying, "Sorry, according to international law, you know it's Ukraine. Under international law, you can argue it, you can dispute it, but this is Ukraine." Liu replied, "Crimea was originally part of Russia, wasn't it? It was Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev who gave Crimea to Ukraine in the Soviet Union." Pressed again on the peninsula's status, the Chinese diplomat said, "Now, we must not quarrel about this kind of problem again. Now, the most urgent thing is to stop, to cease fire, to stop." Chinese officials have tried to maintain a neutral stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, resisting pressure from the US and other Western powers to join in condemning Moscow and imposing sanctions. Beijing, which proposed a 12-point peace plan in February, has emphasized the need to stop the bloodshed in Ukraine and work toward a diplomatic solution that accounts for the security concerns of all parties involved. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has vowed to recapture all of his country's former territory, including Crimea, a goal that most of Kiev's Western backers don't see as realistic, according to numerous reports. Residents of the peninsula voted overwhelmingly for Crimea to become part of Russia in 2014, following a US-backed overthrow of Ukraine's elected government. Asked about the importance of territorial integrity from Kiev's point of view, Liu again pointed to the historical complexity of the issue, saying, "There are enduring problems, aren't there, about their conflict, their problem? It's so easy to say in one word. If you have any problems, you can talk about it together." French Energy Union threatens to cut electricity at upcoming Cannes Film Festival. The National Federation of Mines and Energy, a French trade union affiliated to the General Confederation of Labour, CGT, has threatened to plunge into darkness the Cannes Film Festival and some other major public events in protest of the controversial pension reform. Macron promised 100 days to restore peace, we promised him 100 days of actions and anger. In May, do what you please. The Cannes Festival, the Monaco Grand Prix, the Roland Garros tournament, the Avignon Festival could end up in the dark, the union's statement read, as quoted by a French broadcaster. Anna Criti, an economist specializing in energy issues, confirmed the credibility of such threats, telling the broadcaster that the union has the technical means to cut the electricity at the Cannes Festival. The Cannes Film Festival is set to take place from May 16 to 27. On April 14, the French Constitutional Council approved the key article of the pension reform bill, which would gradually raise the age of retirement in France from 62 to 64 years by 2030. French trade unions called for a general nationwide strike against the reform on May 1. Gunmen opened fire at Turkey's ruling party office in Istanbul. Unknown people opened fire at one of the offices of the Turkish ruling Justice and Development Party, AKP, in Istanbul, with no one injured in an attack, the governor's office of the Istanbul province said on Sunday. Two attackers drove by the party's office in the district of Bosliafler and fired into the air 5 times, the governor's office stated, adding that traces of 4 bullets were found on the top floor of the office. The search for the suspects is currently being carried out. AKP spokesman Ömer Çelik condemned the incident, saying that the party would continue to prepare for the presidential and parliamentary elections scheduled to take place on May 14. In late March, gunmen opened fire at the Istanbul chapter of Turkey's opposition Conservative Good Party, with the party leader Akşener laying the blame for the attack on Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Traumatized UK spy murdered own child, Times. Leaked documents suggest a British agent who was sent to Pakistan was psychologically unsuited to the task. The British Security Services sent a UK national to infiltrate a jihadist camp on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border despite concerns about his mental well-being, The Times reported on Saturday, citing leaked government documents. On his return to the UK, the mentally distressed spy killed his own child. According to documents viewed by the British newspaper, the unnamed man was sent by MI6 to document a camp used by Taliban and al-Qaeda extremists despite registering the worst possible score on a test designed to gauge emotional stability. The report claims that the spy also had a criminal record and had previously experienced a mental breakdown. Upon his return to the UK after his assignment, it was recorded by MI6 that the man was in a state of extreme mental distress, according to the documents. He would later admit to killing his own child, who was found deceased with numerous severe injuries. He was arrested and charged with murder. A jury in a subsequent trial accepted that the spy had been suffering from mental illness but found him guilty of murder. It is not known exactly when the spy was sent to the mountainous Waziristan region for his assignment, but the Times reported that he had been tasked with posing as a jihadist soldier. The area has been targeted for counterinsurgency operations by the Pakistani government, and has also been bombed by U.S. forces. While on the assignment, it's claimed that he was forced to clean and bury dead and badly disfigured Taliban fighters. He witnessed the beheadings of a family accused of being U.S. spies, and was also required to hold the decapitated head of a child. It was noted in his debriefing that when the spy returned to the UK he had a significantly high stress level. He was given an all-expenses-paid holiday, but a doctor would later say that he was incapable of performing everyday tasks as a result of his psychological disorder, the report says. According to the spy's legal defense, his well-being and that of those around him was entirely disregarded by the UK security services. He was an incredibly vulnerable man and his child was left in the most vulnerable of circumstances, said Liam Cotree of Mary Monson Solicitors in comments published on Saturday. Citing policy, the UK intelligence agencies refused to comment when approached by the Times. Former Italian foreign minister to become EU Special Envoy to Persian Gulf, reports. Former Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio will be appointed EU Special Envoy to the Gulf states, Italian newspaper reported on Sunday, citing sources in Brussels. EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell took the initiative to create the post of the Special European Union Envoy for the Gulf region in July 2022. He called on member states to nominate their candidates for the new post, stressing the need for the bloc to maintain close contacts with the Gulf countries after the EU decided to limit its dependence on Russian energy supplies. Di Maio will be appointed to the new post for an initial period of 21 months, starting from June 1, 2023, to February 28, 2025, the report said, citing a letter that Borrell sent to the members of the EU Political and Security Committee on Friday. Borrell said in his letter that Di Maio has the necessary political profile at the international level for this role and that his extensive contacts with the countries of the Persian Gulf will allow him to interact with interested parties at the appropriate level, the newspaper added. Di Maio served as Italian foreign minister from 2019 to 2022. In June 2022, Di Maio announced that he had decided to leave the Five Star Movement party due to disagreements with the party's leadership over the Ukraine crisis. New sanctions against Russia may include transit ban, Bloomberg. The measure would be part of EU's 11th package of restrictions, along with probable further curbs on even more Russian firms and entities. The EU is planning to prohibit the transit of certain goods through Russia in its next raft of sanctions, Bloomberg reported on Saturday, citing sources close to the discussions. The new package aims to enforce previously introduced sanctions and to close any loopholes being used to evade them. According to the report, the transit ban would cover technological goods and certain types of vehicles, which will no longer be allowed to be transported through Russian territory. According to a document seen by the news outlet, Poland, Estonia, and Lithuania have been urging Brussels to adopt the measure to stop Russia from obtaining goods in transit and using them in the ongoing conflict with Ukraine or to enhance its industrial capacity. Apart from the transit ban, the new sanctions package may target ships that don't turn on their navigation systems. Such vessels make it virtually impossible to know where they've carried their cargo, and the practice is seen as a potential way to evade sanctions. The new package is also expected to include about 30 new listings and further restrictions on Russian firms and entities, the news outlet notes. Sources said the new restrictive measures are unlikely to target Russia's state-run nuclear power corporation Rosatom. Despite calls to sanction the company over its alleged role in taking control of Ukraine's Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, the majority of member states are reportedly against sanctioning Russia's nuclear sector. And Brussels needs unanimous backing of all member states for the anti-Russia measures it adopts. The bloc has so far approved and imposed 10 rounds of punitive measures against Russia in response to the Ukraine conflict. It is not yet clear when Brussels' fresh sanctions package will be finalized. Polling places empty in northern Kosovo as ethnic Serbs boycott local elections, reports. Local elections in 4 municipalities in Kosovo's north on Sunday see particularly low turnout as the region's predominantly ethnic Serb population is boycotting the vote as called for by the Serb List Party, media reported. Voters are set to elect new mayors in the municipalities of North Mitrovica, Zevacan, Zubin Potok, and Leposavic and new municipal councils in Zevacan and Leposavic. The Serb List Party, whose candidates previously were in majority in the municipalities' councils and executive bodies, called for boycotting the elections citing pressure and provocations from the Kosovo authorities and enjoyed far-reaching public support in this cause. The local news portal reported. While over 45,000 people are eligible to vote in the north of Serbia's former region, whose independence Belgrade never recognized, just under 2% of them are ethnic Albanians, which further fuels expectations of extremely low turnout. The Kosovo authorities set up 19 special metal cabins near police stations and along highways where the residents can cast their ballots starting 7 a.m. until 7 p.m., 5 to 1700 hours o'clock GMT. A total of 357 observers from political movements, foreign embassies and missions, media and non-government organizations are reportedly monitoring the elections. The streets in the 4 municipalities are particularly deserted and only police officers could be seen standing outside the voting cabins, along with NATO Kosovo Force, KFOR, vehicles and reporters, the report said. Meanwhile, police barred observers and journalists from entering some polling places. The Election Commission in Pristina registered 10 candidates for the mayor's posts in the 4 municipalities, including those from the Democratic Party of Kosovo, founded by former Kosovo President Hashim Thaçi, who is now on trial in The Hague for war crimes committed in 1998 to 1999. The Self-Determination Movement of Kosovo Prime Minister Albin Kurti and the Mitrovica Civic Initiative. The only ethnic Serb among them is independent candidate Slađana Pantović, who is running for the seat of Zevacan mayor. The news outlet said she voted early in the morning, briefly spoke to the media and then departed in a private car guarded by the police. On Saturday, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić told reporters, when asked about what he expected after the Kosovo elections, that there would be a total occupation, which people are already ready for and used to. Vučić, at a meeting with Kosovo Serbs on April 13, supported the boycott and said that the new elected authorities in northern Kosovo will not be legitimate because they will be formed by Albanians, who amount to 2% there. On Friday night, he called the upcoming vote a disgrace to the West and democracy, directing particular criticism to the metal cabins where people are supposed to vote. The Serbian president pointed out that the boycott of the elections should be pinned not only on Pristina but also on the European Union, the guarantor of the 2013 Brussels Agreement on forming the community of Serb municipalities with autonomous rights from 10 Serb-inhabited municipalities. Vučić opined that after Albanians win the municipal elections in the north of Kosovo, they will refuse to participate in forming the community of Serb municipalities. UK spy kills own child after returning from undercover mission in jihadi camp, reports. A traumatized spy working for the UK Secret Intelligence Service MI6 killed his child after returning from a Taliban camp, under UN sanctions for terrorism, where he had been sent on a secret mission, the British news outlet reported, citing leaked intelligence documents. MI6 sent the man to the village of Waziristan in Pakistan with a mission to go undercover in a base of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, terrorist group banned in Russia, fighters, according to the report. During the mission, the spy posed as a jihadi fighter and had to wash dismembered bodies of Taliban soldiers before burying them, while also witnessing an entire family accused of spying for the US being beheaded, the newspaper added. After returning to the UK, the man was in extreme stress, had violent outbursts and suffered flashbacks, news outlets reported. Eventually, he murdered his own child after some time since going back home, according to the leaked documents. The report said that the individual got the highest score on an emotional instability test he had undergone before going on the mission and was still sent there. The man also told experts that he had been sexually abused as a child and had a criminal record, the newspaper added. After the murder, the man was arrested and transferred to a secure psychiatric facility. He was an incredibly vulnerable man and his child was left in the most vulnerable of circumstances which could have been safeguarded had more care been taken. He had served his purpose and was no longer the concern of his employers. He was used, a lawyer, who represented the former spy in court, told the media. The trial was recently held in secret and the person's name and location have been kept anonymous, according to the newspaper. Taiwan's exports plunge amid weak microchip demand. Orders in March shrank by more than 25% against last year, dropping for a 7th consecutive month. The global high-tech hardware powerhouse, Taiwan, has seen its export orders drop at a record pace amid shrinking demand on semiconductors, the South China Morning Post reported this week, citing data from the country's Ministry of Economic Affairs. According to the SCMP report, Taiwan's orders for overseas shipments in March fell by 25.7% against the same period last year, to $46.58 billion, logging a 7th consecutive month of decline. The March drop was also the sharpest since January 2009, when exports fell amid the global financial crisis at the time. The country's orders in March from mainland China and Hong Kong fell by 33.8% year-on-year, while those from Europe and the US dropped by 33.8% and 20.7%, respectively. The decline in export orders was led by Taiwan's consumer electronics sector. The Asian state is the globe's largest producer of semiconductors, responsible for roughly 60% of the world's chip supply, and its economy is predictably dependent on its high-tech industry, with trade in computer chips and other hardware making up some 30% of gross domestic product, GDP. However, orders for consumer electronics in March dropped by 29.4% year-on-year, while those for information and communication products fell by 26.3%. Analysts link the slump with the overall drop in demand for consumer electronics, such as PCs and mobile phones, after the COVID-19 pandemic, which saw global sales of these devices soar as people were forced to work from home due to lockdowns. According to market research firm IDC, smartphone shipments worldwide fell by 18.3% year-on-year in the fourth quarter of 2022, pushed by significantly dampened consumer demand, inflation, and economic uncertainties. Experts warn that unless the demand for semiconductors recovers, Taiwan faces an economic decline in the coming months. Unless imports of Taiwanese semiconductor chips by the US and Europe increase, the year-on-year contraction should continue in the first half of 2023, Iris Peng, chief economist with ING, told SCMP. She noted, however, that the situation could change in the second half of the year if China's economic recovery speeds up. Demand for consumer electronics should rise and, therefore, demand for semiconductor chips should also increase. China awards 20 female scientists, 5 teams for major breakthroughs. 20 young female scientists and 5 scientific teams researching various fields were awarded for major breakthroughs on Saturday by the All China Women's Federation, ACWF, and the China Association for Science and Technology, CAST. At a ceremony hosted by the ACWF and CAST, Shen Yue, vice chairperson of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference and president of the ACWF, encouraged female scientists to bear in mind fundamental national interests and people's concern. Shen called on them to achieve breakthroughs in original and pioneering scientific and technological research and bravely tackle bottleneck problems in key and core technologies to enhance the country's self-reliance and strength in science and technology. Numerous breakthroughs. The 20 young female scientists achieved major breakthroughs in areas including 5G technology, quantum science, AI development on the memory mechanism of an artificial neural network, intelligent design optimization and application of an aircraft system, regenerative medicine for diabetes, biodiversity protection, paleontology, bio-based materials, and green paper making, efficient storage of renewable clean energy, hydrogen technology, integrated circuit, and basic and clinical research on improving female reproductive health and preventing birth defects. Among those recognized was Zhang Jianhua, professor and vice dean, School of Science, Beijing University of Posts and Telecommunications, who developed a high-precision multidimensional channel model reflecting Chinese landform, which became a mandatory model for 5G international standards. With long-term research of cryptographic basic theory and application technology, the Fan Han method was proposed by Fan Shuken, professor, Beijing Institute of Information Science and Technology, to solve a number of internationally famous conjecture and problems in cryptographic basic theory. Achieving significant innovations in the whole process of anti-quantum cryptographic basic theory, algorithm design, and analysis and evaluation. Meanwhile, a new mechanism by which microorganisms depend on minerals for energy in extreme environments has been developed by Lu Wan, a professor at Peking University's College of Environmental Science and Engineering. And the problem of prevention and control of plant virus diseases was explored from 2 aspects of basic theory and application technology by Li Fangfang, a researcher, at the Institute of Plant Protection, Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences. In addition, the 5 scientific teams honored made breakthroughs in areas including air quality forecast and early warning, cardiac function reconstruction, and organic optoelectronic materials and device innovation. 701st Research Institute CSICOF China Ship Research and Design Center is recognized for innovating and breaking through nearly 100 key technologies of hull structure design, and CAST Xi'an, a subsidiary of China Academy of Space Technology, CAST, within China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, CASC, successfully developed China's first space-based rubidium atomic clock. Since 2004, 184 Chinese female scientists and researchers have been awarded, according to the ACWF. For the people, at least 9 U.S. lawmakers sold troubled stock before SVB crisis. Members of the U.S. Congress allegedly exploited classified economic information to earn money. 9 U.S. lawmakers traded banking stocks before or during the latest crisis in the financial sector that was triggered by the Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, collapse on March 10. Analysis of open data by research agency Quiver Quantitative has shown. New Jersey Democrat Josh Gottheimer sold his SVB shares on March 9, earning up to $15,000 just a day before the collapse. This move could be attributed to almost supernatural premonition, yet however, there is another explanation. The congressman in question was a member of the Financial Services Committee since 2019 and this, by definition, means that he possessed classified information about the economy. Further research showed that Gottheimer was the sort of Gordon Gekko among the House of Representatives. Last year he struck roughly 380 stock market deals. The spokesperson for the congressman stated that he made his economic decisions at the discretion of his financial advisor, adding that Gottheimer is in process of establishing a blind trust, a mechanism which allows for a civil servant to keep his riches without really knowing what's going on with them and being unable to somehow use political influence for profit's sake. This financial advisor defense was similarly used by another U.S. congressman questioned by the public about stock market operations. An investigation carried out by a prominent U.S. newspaper showed that this case is only the tip of the iceberg. Nearly a fifth of American lawmakers or their close relatives conducted stock market transactions with equity of the companies affected by their legislative work. This practice of enrichment via political means has sparked outrage in U.S. society. Sherrod Brown, a senator from Ohio, is pushing a bill that will limit the ability to conduct financial operations for members of Congress. Members of Congress are supposed to serve the American people, not their stock portfolios, he stated in a press release. He added that politicians have more inside information and are able to know more about the economy. The Silicon Valley Bank collapse at the beginning of March ignited angst among investors all over the world, causing a domino effect in the banking sector. Russia-NATO showdown. The Western Alliance continues to maintain that it is not a party to conflict in Ukraine, despite revelations in the Pentagon leaks that in addition to training, intelligence support and tens of billions worth of advanced weaponry, several NATO countries actually have special forces boots on the ground. Moscow considers the crisis in Ukraine a proxy war between itself and the Western Alliance, emphasizing that the conflict would end immediately if Washington and its allies ended their military support for Kiev, and wouldn't have started if NATO had respected Russia's security concerns in the first place. Romania should continue boosting military interoperability with NATO. The process of increasing the interoperability of Romania's land forces with their NATO counterparts should continue, as it is necessitated by current security challenges, Romanian President Klaus Iohannis said on Sunday. Given current security challenges facing Romania and the entire Euro-Atlantic area, it is necessary to continue the process of increasing the interoperability of the Romanian land forces with peer NATO structures through joint execution of missions and training activities. Iohannis said in a message on the occasion of the Day of Land Forces. The president called land forces one of the most important categories of forces of the Romanian army, adding that the security crisis in Europe and Russia's military operation in Ukraine highlighted the importance of their role in ensuring the security of our country and NATO's eastern flank. Iohannis also pledged that his country will strengthen its defense and resilience capacities and remain a pillar of stability and a security guarantor in the region. Modernizing and equipping the Romanian army with new types of weaponry and equipment is a priority for the next period, and the allocation, starting this year, of 2.5% of GDP for defense provides the prerequisites for these objectives to be reached quickly, Iohannis said. In early March 2022, Iohannis held a meeting with the country's Supreme Defense Council to discuss the security landscape amid Russia's military operation in Ukraine. As a result of this meeting, it was decided to raise Romania's defense spending from 2% to 2.5% of GDP under a plan that is set to remain in place for at least 10 years. Over this period, the country seeks to modernize its defense system, equip the army and improve the qualifications of the military.